So this episode is going to be a little different than my typical either business or radio style podcasts. This one, we're going to talk about my faith and the journey that I've experienced within the Orthodox Church, that I've really seen a difference in my life from it. And it's evolved since when I was a kid. But I want to share with you a little bit about that because it's who I am. And I promise to share my whole self with you. So here we go. My childhood picture of God was very different than it has grown to be. I have been born and raised into the Orthodox Church, Antiochian Orthodox Church, hailing from Antioch in Syria. It's Lebanese roots. The Orthodox Church is an Eastern rite from the Byzantine Empire, and it is actually, fun fact, the first faith after the apostles. So many years ago, the apostles were bishops, like Bishop James, for example, and they led the church. Peter was the cornerstone of the faith, right? And they were not known as Catholics or Protestants or any of those things, or Orthodox for that matter. They were known as followers of the way. That's it. Followers of the way. And it then evolved into the first bishops of the church, and the Orthodox way of practicing the faith was the first official way to do so, before the Bible, before everything. And so that's really, really cool to me. And I love, as you'll get to know, the deep history of things. I love when things connect past to present and impending future, and how they relate to today and what we can learn from and use and grow from. It is paramount. I mean, the flashbacks and movies and things, I mean, it hits me deep. So I'm like, oh, that's why they feel that way, because they went through that, or, oh my gosh, that brings so much context. The history brings context to me. And that same thing applies with the faith. But I grew up around a lot of different sects within the Christian faith, along with Muslims, being Arab, Lebanese, and then along with Jews. And when I moved to Chicago, I had many more Jewish friends than when I grew up. And being here where I'm at right now, having a lot more Muslim friends than I did in Chicago. So it all is good. It works out. But it's cool to be able to hear different perspectives and see different, faiths, and why people do what they do, and why they love God and the way they see their faith, and what makes us similar and what makes us different. So I'm just going to speak about mine today. And I really don't have enough, how do I say it, information or understanding to really speak on any others. So I'm just going to go from my lens. And if you want to skip this podcast, I totally get it. And if you're curious and want to listen to more, I'm happy to have you. So first of all, I went to church, in the Orthodox Church, at least when I was a kid. There's a lot of symbolism, and we leave room for a lot of mystery. So we're okay saying we don't know things. That's one thing I love about our faith, is if we knew everything about God, then God can't be that great. I mean, if you have a full picture and understanding, how can something be as great as the creator of the universe, right? Hell, we don't know half the stuff about the universe. So that says something, right? We're always learning, always discovering new things. Another thing is science and our faith play really well together. God created science, and we see it as a huge tool for humanity to be able to do amazing things, which I love, as long as we don't abuse it. But that goes with everything. You can abuse food. You can abuse your faith. You can use it as a weapon, and it's all wrong. All of it's wrong. The only truth is that God is and always will be 100% perfect, love, and just. And he is the creator of all things. And it's all good. All good, and every perfect gift comes from above and comes down to us from the Father of lights. That being said, growing up in church, I had a lot of Protestant friends. Nothing wrong with it, just different perspectives. And a lot of that had to do with like rules and all this talk about, don't swear. That was like the big thing. Don't swear, don't drink, don't smoke, especially growing up in high school. And while, yes, it's important to recognize those things, and we see it as more of a sense of what could be happening when you're not in control of yourself, right? But it really didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, why are we so rules focused about everything? If you don't do this, then you'll go to hell. Like that, it just seems so wrong. It's just odd. That's how I felt. I'm just saying how I felt. What I'm finding is it's not loud orthodoxy, but it's rooted, it's grounded, and it explains the reasons why. It's all about having a relationship of father and son, not a friendship, as many times we hear in this modern era, but a respect, an obedience, healthy fear of God, which can be denoted as respect, just like one may fear their own father. Not out of like, I'm actually scared of you, but out of respect. Now, I'm not naive. Obviously, there's times where that fear is very unhealthy because of very real things. That's not what I'm talking about. My heart breaks for the people that have gone through the things that I can only imagine. But we're talking about the healthy fear out of respect and love for the Creator, for our Creator. It was never about earning our way to God, earning our way to anything, because we can't really earn our way because we just can't. We are broken. We live in a corrupted world. But what we can do is our jobs is to do good works and to love God through those works. By doing those works, we are loving God. It's loving God with action and how we treat our neighbors. We often talk about the most important thing in our faith is two things. One, we love God with all of our heart, mind, soul, body. Two, we love our neighbors as ourselves. That will take care of all of the 10 commandments. If you really think about it, those just two things. And we will never, ever be able to do those in perfection. But we can move closer and closer to God through our actions and our willingness to be humble and to say, I don't know the things. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. There's so many lessons through Scripture in the Psalms, in the Old Testament, all the way through the New Testament, the Gospels and the parables that Jesus taught. I was just sharing a lesson today about the parable of the talents, and I'm not going to say it all perfectly, but the gist of it is, it's so funny, first of all, that it's called talents, considering that it makes perfect sense for today's world. Talents as in like our gifts. But talents back in the parables scenario would be a symbol of currency. And in that, Jesus said, or not Jesus, he was telling the parable, and the parable was a master, came to 3 of his servants and gave the talents. Some he gave, let's just say, many to, some moderately so, and another more moderately so. So one had the most, one had the second most, and one had the third most of talents. And he said to each of those individuals, take care of the talents that I've given you and grow them, and upon my travels, as this master was leaving. And when the master returned, he went and held court, if you will, or held his servants accountable to what they had done, and said, I had asked you to do this. Tell me what you did. And the first servant with many talents doubled his investment. Wonderful. My good and faithful servant, said the master. The second, he had less, but he still doubled his investment. Wonderful. My good and favorite servant. And I think he said to both of them, more responsibilities will be given to you according to your deeds. The third servant buried his talents within the sand in fear of losing his investment to his master. And when the master confronted him and said, why have you done anything with the talents that I've given you? And he said, I was fearful of losing your talents. And he said, you're wicked and lazy. He said, you should be cast into the outer darkness. It wasn't just like you did a wrong thing. He said, wicked and lazy. Your character has shown you who you are. Fascinating. So all I'm saying is the way that we can show God's love is how we act and what we do. And obedience is one of the greatest forms of love. And it's not about just, did you drink and did you smoke and did you have sex? All these things that people tended to talk about growing up. It's more about how's your relationship with God in terms of your father-son relationship, father-daughter relationship. And when you realize that when God created everything, this is what's starting to really become. Because I've wrestled with so many different topics. And one thing I've realized is if God's created everything and everything he created was good and pure, and he decides on what certain things are, then it's my responsibility to understand what his desire is. And so that comes with communication, prayer, fasting. Fasting's really big because it clears your mind and helps you focus on God and what he wants. And I've just realized that, especially when so many more things are outside of my control, my kids, some of the things in my business, some of the things in my life, my health, the more I trust God's presence, the less I perform for it, and the more I relinquish my imperfections and give it to him. So, little different reflection on this episode today, but I hope that you love it. And if you didn't listen to it, that's okay. I'm going to get back to more self-development next week, where I'll be talking about 5 things I'm letting go in 2026 as we head into the new year. Till then, have a great end of your 2025.